Yes, sir. Last election cycle, we saw George Stephanopoulos, who pretends to be a journalist, try to take out all the Republicans with the famous war on women question to Romney. My question to you is, how do you personally, and then they'll try this with every candidate, they'll try to take out all of you Republicans, one issue, one word, one phrase at a time. How are you personally going to deal with that in this cycle? To stay alive and not let them take you out, not let them tar and feather you. Because it gets sickening, and they're trying to pick the president. They've been doing it for a couple cycles now.
Well, as we would say, George Step on All of Us is a very fascinating person who I don't know why people say that he's a journalist. I mean, he's a good talk show person, and I give him credit for that. I like him personally. I really do, and I know George fairly well, and I like him. Look, on Fox News for 6.5 years, I never pretended I was a journalist. Never used that term to attribute to myself because I wasn't a journalist. I'm not. Never have been, never will be. I'm too opinionated. A true journalist is objective as a person can be. A person who has worked as a political operative at the level he has, it's hard to convince me that he didn't take some of that point of view with him to the interview desk. And I know when I've been interviewed, even by George, I don't expect that I'm going to get, Republican-friendly questions. And guess what? Usually I haven't. Now, sometimes they're fair and they're fine. I don't mind taking the tough questions. As far as what can I do to avoid it, I think I've done a pretty good job, staying on my feet, not only through the years of some of the most hostile political environments in the country, but also, understanding the media from being up close and personal in it. Now, let me just mention this. It's really hard to be a candidate. It is. It's a hard, hard task. It's even harder to hold office and to effectively govern. 10.5 years as I was governor, 3 years as a lieutenant governor, that's hard work, really hard work, especially in the kind of anti-Republican environment I worked in. Last 6.5 years, I was a talk show host on radio and television. I'm going to be honest with you guys. I'm going to tell you something that I'll just break the news to you. That's the easiest job I ever had in my life. And it paid better than anything I've ever done in my life. And the reason I say that is because every day as a governor, I was accountable for the measurable results of the decisions that I made. I could be on television, and I never was going to be held responsible for a policy that I would put forth. I'd put it forth with conviction, and I never said anything I didn't believe. But my point is, I never had to implement it. When I hear people who have only been talk show hosts and they've never actually governed, I just want to say, my gosh, if this is as easy as you've pretended it to be, you really owe us the favor of getting out there, getting on the ballot, getting elected, and serving. Because if it's that easy, shoot, man, do us a favor and run and get elected and serve. Yes, sir.
Could you get nonprofit status for your campaign staff, or is Lois Lerner still at the IRS?
Oh, that's what a great question. Well, let me just say this. If I'm president, one of the biggest things I'm going to push for is the implementation of the fair tax, which means we will get rid of the IRS completely, and it is the only way we get rid of the IRS is to pass the fair tax. I think I was for the fair tax 8 years ago. By the way, I was in Southwest Iowa when I first learned of the fair tax back in 2007. I would come, it was over, I can't remember exactly which city, but I remember a person came in a town hall like this and said, "What do you think about the fair tax?" I said, "Well, I'm all for taxes being fair." "No, what do you think about the fair tax?" I said, "Well, I think the tax should be fair." And he said, "No, I'm asking about the fair tax." I said, I don't know what you're talking about. And he handed me the fair tax book. And he said, "Read this." And on the flight home, I read it. I was so taken by it, I read it the second time. And then I said, my gosh, this is what we have been needing to implement. This revolutionizes not just the tax system, but the entire economy of the United States. So then I spent about 8 hours with some of the original economists who developed it, people from Boston University, Chicago, and places who were part of a $20+ million research effort that created the fair tax. And I was sold on it, and I championed the fair tax during my presidential campaign 8 years ago. Let me tell you something. I am more committed to it now than I ever have been, in large measure because we now understand something about the IRS that we didn't even know fully 8 years ago, what a criminal enterprise it really is, and how they make you keep all of your receipts and records for 7 years in a shoebox so that you can prove that you really did purchase the things you did, but they don't have to keep their own emails to show how they broke the law and abused the citizens and even maintain the records that federal law requires them to. So more than ever, you're looking at the guy, by the way, I think I'm the only guy in the presidential race who is championing the fair tax. So if that's important to you, I'm your guy. If you like the IRS and you want to keep them, there'll be others who will be happy to keep the IRS for you. Not me. I want to get rid of them. I want it to be the April 15th, just another beautiful spring day in America. I'm told we've got to go. Sir, I'll take your question as the last one.
How would you stand on a flat tax?
Well, the fair tax is a flat tax. But it's a tax on consumption as opposed to a tax on income.
Exactly.
I mean, a flat tax would be better than the system we have now. It's an improvement. But let me tell you why I think the fair tax is a better approach. Because you cannot create a strong economy as long as you're punishing those elements of the economy that you should want to reward. When you penalize productivity and subsidize people's irresponsibility, which is what our current tax code does, you never are going to grow the economy at the level at which we're going to have to grow to ever whittle down $18 trillion of debt. If I work 8 hours in a factory and I want to earn more, so I work 16 hours in a factory, I should get double pay. But if I do that, I don't get twice the paycheck. I barely get more than the first 8 hours because I'm going to be put in the new tax bracket, and the government will punish and penalize me for working twice as hard. That makes no sense. If I make an investment, and it's a smart one and a good one, and I get dividends or capital gains from it, I'm going to pay taxes for a good decision. If I make a stupid decision and put my money into something that fails, I can write that off. So the government subsidizes my stupidity, and it only punishes my good sense. This is not how to build a strong economy. We'll never bring manufacturing back as long as we have so much embedded tax. Right now, everything made in America has about 22% embedded tax in it. So the chair you're sitting in, 22% embedded tax. If that chair is made in China, it's tax-free and it's being manufactured. It comes to sit in the showroom in the U.S., it's already 22% cheaper. Guess which chair a lot of people will buy? But if that chair is untaxed in the U.S. as much as it is in China, and we build a chair and put them both on the showroom floor, now you have an American manufacturer with a fighting chance to be able to sell his product because they're equally taxed and nobody has the tax embedded. So I just believe that that is the most significant way. So the fair tax is flat, but it's flat on consumption, which, by the way, nobody asked about immigration. But I was just going to say that one of the reasons a fair tax is the best mechanism to reform immigration is when you make it economically unviable for a person to continue to be illegal, they won't be illegal. If a person can get their paycheck under the table and not pay the taxes on it, it is a disadvantage to the American worker and the American employer playing by the rules, and an advantage to the person who's skirting the rules. Under the fair tax, nobody takes anything out of your paycheck. But everybody, whether you're an illegal or legal, you go to the store and buy something, everybody pays the tax. The difference is the citizen gets the benefit of the prebate, which untaxes his necessities. The illegal does not, because only goes to citizens. So the quickest way to reform immigration, take the economic incentive out of being illegal and make it so that it's economically an incentive to be legal. And by the way, the other thing I do, we'd secure the border in less than a year. And let me tell you how and why. 73 years ago, there was a road built between British Columbia and Alaska, 1,700-mile road. It was built in less than a year. You cannot tell me that if you can build a 1,700-mile road 73 years ago with the limited technology of that day, that we could not secure our border in less than a year if we had the leader who would say, we're going to get it done. So I would say that by my first anniversary as president, we would have a secure border, and if we get the fair tax, we have taken care of
What about
illegal immigration.
What about the
I've
illegal?
already taken one, and I've promised everybody I've got to go and let you guys go. I wasn't going to let you go 5:30 to 6 after all. Hey, folks, I want to say thank you so very much for coming today. God bless you, and thanks for coming out. You stayed awake the whole time. I'm really proud of you. Thank you.
Hi, girls. Thank y'all for coming.
A lot of